All righty then. Should we go ahead and talk about the blood and guts?
I'll say something here.
I was wondering whether you had just said no and just muted yourself. Like, no, we're not going to talk about this.
No, I was, waiting to see if you were going to jump in with any more thoughts, but I realized you were deep in thought there. It was a shit show, but it was one of those shit shows where I really couldn't look away. And it almost felt like every single thing on this show in its own way was terrible. Now, some things
they kept finding different ways,
but some things are more terrible than others. It may have peaked earlier in terms of star power, but this was one of the biggest Dynamites of the year. I have to assume it'll do one of their better ratings. You could probably question why this isn't a pay-per-view because
what do they got left to sell us?
Yeah, I don't give a shit about their pay-per-view in a few weeks. This was the pay-per-view, but let's talk about
a few weeks. It's fucking 10 days from this episode's airing.
Oh,
10 days. They got they're going from 2 rings and a double cage with 20 different men and women in 2 different matches for an hour apiece on the free TV to 2 guys in a cage in 1 match in 1 ring on pay-per-view for $50. I don't, but here's the thing. You, Mr. Last, you knew that I was more than likely going to skip watching an hour of indie girl garbage match. And you called me up early the very next morning after this thing aired. And I won't give the entire transcript of our conversation, but basically, I think you'll agree the gist was you saying people are demanding to hear what I have to say about this thing because it was an all-time shit show of epic proportions, and please watch it. Was that the summation of the...
Those may have been some of the words I actually said, too. Yeah, I think so. And
yeah,
more than anything else on Dynamite in a while, we just did a review of Dynamite last week. I think it was like 30 minutes, the shortest one ever. It's not a fun show to watch often. The same people doing the same things. There's only so much you could say. This was classic AEW Dynamite here. And
there's a lot to say.
We heard more feedback about this than anything that's been on Dynamite in a while, so I thought that merited you considering to watch this match for the listeners.
Well, and at the same time, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's good. Isn't that what they're trying to do? Are you a successful high wire walker if you say you're going to walk between the 2 skyscrapers in downtown Chicago and you make worldwide news for falling off the fucking wire? It worked for Evel Knievel, but his fucking, cycle rocket just said fuck it, and he parachuted into the Snake River Canyon. That got worldwide publicity, but it wasn't exactly a proud achievement. And what they have done is they have just said, we are going to do as much as we can to appeal to the smallest number of people, because it is an ever smaller number of people now, and they're still 20% down with the new method of figuring ratings. So, if this show is up 20%, it'll be back to what a bad show used to do. The point is, 10 days in front of a pay-per-view, but more importantly, Tony's going to fund this thing for 10 years. Or till whenever at such time that he's non-compos mentis by his father. And what can you do to another human being? But it's all just random. It's just chaos. And the reason why that especially this got a lot of attention was because now, instead of just the guy, well, I don't say now, they've done it before, but the highlight of the garbage indie wrestling that appeals to the smallest, diest, hardest part of this audience that tells them all they know what they're doing and that they're the greatest thing ever, though that small group of people. The girls get to fucking be sickos too. While they resent the jokes that you make about the AEW fans being the people legitimately that have people chained up in their basement. We didn't make that up. The news did. We joke about that and they get mad and then, oh, but this is so great. And whenever you, and boy, by the way, the AEW fans with 27 different Twitter accounts, all with Japanese anime and fucking some kind of outlaw wrestler in their gimmick, they hate it when you fucking say anything about this stuff, about the girls getting to do it too, because I triggered a bot with a couple of the things I said, where that they all somehow, people that don't follow me, that I didn't tag AEW as the kids say or whatever, but they find it and come in because it's like 17 people, but it's all they do all day. That's the bubble that these people live in AEW, the talent. The reason why that the girls match here, and I do use that term derisively, because that's what they showed they are. They're girl marks. And Tony will let them do whatever the fuck they want. Because I saw that on the statements on the internet. You boomer, the girls are equal. They wanted to do this. They didn't have to be talked into it. Exactly. Because they're marks. They have cushy jobs where instead of having to protect themselves and their opponents so that they can work regularly or elsewise be out of a job and not getting paid, they're bankrolled by a billionaire boy child with some kind of cognitive thing going on. And he'll pay them if they fucking, and they're young and they think, oh, what the fuck, I'll break my leg or oh, whatever the fuck, he'll pay me. And they don't, they think it'll be cool. We'll take cool pictures of us bleeding and we'll get to use the kendo stick wrapped in barbed wire. And they're marks. They have not even the barest superficial understanding of what not only the wrestling business is, but why blood should be used in it and how it should be done and by who and in what quantities becomes just ridiculous. And they don't care that it's potentially risky for either sponsors that may get a wild hair up their ass or the network one of these days will start watching the fucking show. And they'll go, what the fuck? This is on our air? Or somebody will have a goddamn conniption fit because it's just so gross and in such bad taste. But they don't care because the idea of women rolling around in broken glass and the barbed wire and the thumbtacks and the bleeding and all the other shit, it's not going to increase AEW's business because it turns off more than it turns on. And the ones it turns on are already there. But they don't care that it's not going to increase business. It might have increased the viewers, 50,000 viewers, whatever the fuck, with the numbers, who knows these days. But what difference does that make? Because the money's guaranteed. And they don't care whether they even get hurt or not because they view it as a badge of honor. Oh, when I came off the top of the cage through a fucking table that was on fire with the goddamn barbed wire. Hey, oh, look at the pictures of this nasty fucking break here, and I was in the hospital, but Tony paid me. They're all children, and they're marks for themselves. And before we get into this 12-way clusterfuck, with any specificity, that's the deal. Is that it's not about girls being equal because they can draw money. They want to show that they can be as big a marks for themselves and as stupid as everybody else, as the guys can. And no, I don't believe they were forced to do it. I believe they wanted to do it because they're marks for themselves and they don't get to business. We get to do the cool shit. We get to break the furniture. It won't increase their checks. They're just having fun. They're on a guarantee. They get the cool pictures. But it's bad indie wrestling. If there was a reason for first of all, if everything didn't look so fucking phony, that's what struck a nerve with people on Twitter. I wasn't as offended by the women bleeding and rolling in broken glass as I was the fact that as a professional, so much of it looked so fucking fake. And they can't get over the fact that the reason that you and I hear, Brian, from 9 million of the 11 million people that used to watch wrestling on Monday nights but don't watch it at all anymore, 75% of them, their complaint is, well, everything just looks so fake and it sounds so silly and fake. So they do faker shit, but they hurt themselves in the process of doing it. And none of these girls are talented enough at working with gimmicks, obviously, that they can be trusted not to hurt somebody. It's bad taste indie wrestling that stays in rec centers for a reason. There's no athletic ability involved, and that's why the junk wrestlers, garbage wrestlers of the business do it, because that's the only way they can get over. But some of these girls have talent. Some of the guys have talent. Not as many, by the way, in the men's match. I wanted somebody to hit me in the head so I'd see some stars. But they don't need the talent to do this because it's just a stunt show where the fans don't care what happens as long as they see somebody bleed and somebody break some furniture, miscellaneous interchangeable talent. We won't remember the exact thing tomorrow. Just break a lot of shit. So they're all just breaking a lot of shit. Blood can be important in wrestling. If the heel makes the babyface bleed, if it's in a match, then the fans are nervous because the babyface is hurt. He's at a disadvantage. He may not be able to pull this out. Or if it's in an angle, then it gives the babyface some reason to want to get even with the heel for injuring him, for hurting him in front of all his fans. When the babyface gets heat or gets juice on the heel, it's because he's getting even for something that was done to him. He's showing the people they get what they paid to see. In the end, usually. If not the end of the program, at least the end of the fucking match. But no, now he got him. He finally got him. There's reasons for it. You don't do it in the first match in a cold match between two fucking dweebs. You don't do it up and down in 6 matches out of 6 on the card or nobody gives a shit anymore. It's just ridiculous. There's the parameters and the rules of the road. And then it's a useful tool. If you use it too much, then people don't give a shit and then you've just fucked yourself. If you never do it, then people are, I remember back in the day, they used to beat the shit out of each other. It's got to be a balance. But these idiots just do it because they think it makes them cool.
I'll say a few things.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll jump in with a few things. And I think what you just said is a part of the issue. And specifically with the war games here, there were a lot of weapons and a lot of different gimmicks introduced. Well, we'll get to the bed of nails. We'll get to all these different things. It's not like they were necessary. It wasn't about the fans like, I need more than war games. No, they had these ideas. They wanted to do them. I don't remember what match it was. It may have been like Anna Jay and Ty Mello versus Penelope and someone. I don't even remember for sure. But there was like a no DQ women's match on like Collision or something. And it was like a bloodbath, and it was just a complete crazy match like the men have. A little sloppier, but the same kind of match.
Yeah.
And the quote that came out afterwards was like, we really wanted to do it, so we asked Tony, and he said, sure. And again, you hit on, I think, one of the big issues. A lot of this stuff that's done is done for them because it's not that you need a Vince McMahon, but you need more than a Tony in terms of having an overall idea of the big picture and what needs to be and what doesn't need to be a part of that. Now, with all that said, my last comment will be, I enjoyed the women's match a whole lot more than the men's match. And part of that was the shit show spectacle of it. Because I've never seen, you've never seen, no one's ever seen a women's match like this.
Well, no. And also because all the stars, what there were of them were in the women's match, at least bigger than in the men's. And they did more goofy shit. Because what else was there left to do? Which is the stupid thing about seeing a War Games or a Blood and Guts or these Elimination Chamber or these giant gimmick matches, two of them on the same show, one right after another, one with the girls usually on first to make it look like, well, what the fuck? If that 120-pound girl can survive this incredible structure, then what about Brock Lesnar? It's insane to begin with.
And that's one thing with Elimination Chamber or Royal Rumble. Elimination Chamber is a little heavier than Royal Rumble, but that's one thing. When it's the War Games match and the women are up first and they introduce every conceivable weapon into it and they escape during it, like everything that's going to happen, they did first. I think it took a lot away in terms of crowd reaction from the men's War Games match.
Well, yeah, because they're sitting there going, Jesus Christ, it's a bunch of job guys and they're doing the same shit we are. All right, let's take it one at a time, because that's the problem also, is that now I think I've made this simile before, in that the AEW male fans now are the 14-year-old teenage girls that used to write me death threats because of what I did to Ricky and Robert. In the day, you had women in the crowd hanging from the rafters, flinging themselves at the Rock and Roll Express and the Fabulous Ones and the Von Erichs. And now all the guys in the business are so small, are so geeky, so unintimidating, so lacking in personality. The women don't give a shit about them, but it's the 30-something-year-old guys that are desperate, that are like, Jesus Christ, anybody. Oh, look at those pretty girls. And they're so, but they still act like, how dare you say that about Blue Sky? They act like the 14-year-old girls. So this was pretty much the main event of this thing to that audience. So let's see, where did we start? And by the way, the rules of this are two people start for 5 minutes, right? Like it always, and then every few minutes, another person will come out. There was no time. There was no clock. There was no rhyme or reason. They didn't want to send anybody to commercial break. They just said, we won't promise them anything. We'll just send them out when the spot comes up. So I really do think this kind of thing does damage to the whole business, because for all the reasons, when people see this and think, this is wrestling, fuck, they don't want to see any kind of wrestling. Unless it's this, the average person that's not a faithful member of this audience wouldn't stumble past this thing anyway. So it was Willow and Sky Blue and the kendo sticks and the garbage can lid, and Blue starts bleeding buckets, 2 minutes in? And she's in this whole thing, which is going to go an hour. And she's already tweeted all the pictures and everything. And she made sure to get in front of the camera a bunch and smile, so you knew she was happy about it. She was bleeding to death. Jesus Christ. And Julia Hart came in next, and she and Sky Blue, did we ever find out, Brian, did I zone out and miss it? They went to
what
the
they were going
turnbuckle
for.
pads.
Yeah, we never found out.
they both go to the corner and they reach in the top buckle, the middle buckle, the bottom buckle, back in the top buckle. They're trying to find whatever's hid. And then they realize they've just stopped the match and they go over and start beating on Willow, and it never happens. And then they double teamed Willow. Did you see on the charges in the corner they were giving her when they ran into each other? Because Sky Blue went in there, boom, and she turned around, didn't get out of the way in time. Here came Jillian, and bam, hit her own partner. And it just. So Harley Cameron came in then with a chair and tatered Blue with it. And at this point, we were starting to get a picture of a bunch of women dressed like strippers, using weapons, botching moves, and bleeding and getting lost. And then they went to the break. So when they came back, it had been like 5 minutes since they might come in, and then they sent Thekla. And it looked like drunk square dancing. I don't know how to explain. It wasn't like anybody was trying to have any semblance of it. They were trying to do what they've seen on tape the guys do in the war games or whatever. And then about a minute and a half after Thekla came in, after 5 minutes, Jamie Hayter came in. And I don't think it was even supposed to happen where she had a bag of thumbtacks, but the bag immediately just exploded and the thumbtacks went everywhere.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. I mean, I don't know, but that happened pretty quick.
So she just grabbed a kendo stick and beat on some people. And then here came Megan Brain. And every week, Brian, more and more I realize why she is not it. Remember when we used to ask, how did the WWE miss out on her? Boy. So she went to double clothesline Harley and Willow. And Willow took the clothesline, but Harley tried to duck it, but she got hit in the face anyway, but she didn't sell it. She stood up and kept running. And when she came off the other side, Megan slammed her. So I'm not sure which one fucked up, whether it was the one took it or the one that ducked it. And Harley can't, in some cases, it looks like she's confused when somebody shoots her off and she tries to figure out how to just run straight ahead. Can you get lost trying to run straight ahead, Brian?
Well, there's a lot going on. It's a action-packed cage match.
It's not like you can stop on the corner for the light and fucking wait for it to change while you think about. All righty. So then Penelope Pitstop is at ringside, even though she couldn't be in the match because she is in a arm sling or a sling in her arm, whatever. She's apparently, she's fucked up.
Yeah, we saw that. It's when she did a moonsault onto a group of women on the floor and just landed arm first on the floor.
Oh, that's right. Well, that'll do it. But she handed Megan Brain a chair, and then, this is why I call her Megan Brain, folks. She flung it full force. Jamie Hayter was sitting in the corner, like on her ass and leaned into turnbuckles. And they put a garbage can lid over, sit on her lap, and it's over her face, right? So apparently somebody thought a spot would be, well, we'll hit the can lid with the chair. She flung it. Did you see this, Brian? Full force into the can lid with Hayter's face behind it for no reason. It didn't even hit it hard, threw it and let go of it. And a boom, and we didn't see Hayter do anything for goddamn, what was it, the next 15 minutes? And I've heard that apparently they're reporting that some of her teeth are fucked up or something.
Oh, no way.
I don't know.
I didn't see that. Oh, no.
You know, well, it wasn't like she wasn't bleeding, but you don't necessarily, I don't know what they did to her. She laid there for quite a while in the other ring. Like, I'll be over here now. But that should be a fine. Anybody that did that in the WWE would be fined, I would think, for unprofessional conduct because there's no way you can't, and also stupidity. And if that happened in regular companies, nobody'd work with this fucking bitch. So I don't know what the fucks. Anyway, so then Statlander came in with a pool cue. And she used it once and dropped it and started doing wrestling moves.
Well, no, it broke, though. When she used it, the top broke off right away.
You still got a goddamn stick in your hand.
Well, it's now very sharp now. Yeah, that's right.
Well, also, have you not seen the goddamn all the pool hall fight movies where they break the pool stick in half and use the heavy part? You're just not thinking, Brian. Nevertheless, for some reason at that point, Queen Waiata showed up at ringside wearing a neck brace. She was supposed to be in a match, but these people are really hurt. So they've lost 2 out of this fucking roster before they even got the thing in the ring. And they're trying to kill the rest of them, but the girl in the neck brace chased the girl in the arm sling off. I'm not making this up.
It's going to be funny when they can't get to the end of their tag team tournament because multiple women are hurt because of everything they've done since they announced the tournament. So
then Willow and Statlander, even though they're on a babyface team, but they've had issues with each other, so they do a face-off. And the announcers are trying to tell the story of, well, they've had a checkered past or whatever, and they're trying to. Well, suddenly, old Blue comes from behind and shoves Statlander like she's going to shove her face first into Willow. But at the same time, Willow lurches forward like when Statlander goes down or ducks or whatever, she's going to clothesline Blue. But when Blue pushed Statlander, Blue tripped and fell and ducked the clothesline. And Willow is like, where the fuck she go? Oh, she's down there now. And I swear to God, she tripped and fell and fucking ducked the clothesline. So they went back to the face-off, and then the announcers start trying to tell the story again about, well, they've had a checkered past. And this time, Statlander has turned to where the handheld in the ring is from the viewpoint that it's coming, because here comes Megan Brain to do the same thing and shove them into each other. But everybody fell down, including, I think, Blue Sky, who hadn't really got back up yet. And so meanwhile, we're 30 minutes into the fucking show, and they come back from another break, and here's Mercedes Moon. And they actually put a table at ringside with job guys holding all of her fucking belts with her champagne bucket, which actually looked like what you'd get goddamn mud bugs in at Joe's Crab Shack, was the champagne ice bucket. But they got the champagne and they got the job guys and the belts, and she does her normal entrance. The stripper dance and drank champagne off the table while the match is going on. And she does get heat because she's an obnoxious douchebag, but I'm not sure that this is a proper heat when you just go, that is a person that I just couldn't ever like. She's so convinced that her shit tastes like caviar. And I know that's a good heel attribute, but then she's going to get in the ring and stink it up and never do a job. Although you can give her this. She had as little to do with this thing as possible. This match I'm talking about. She did as little as she could possibly do. She stayed away from most of the broken glass and the thumbtacks. And by the finish of the thing, she wasn't even in the cage. So she's got creative control, I guess. But she just would go in and out of the cage and threw all of her belts in the ring so that all the girls' heels could awkwardly whip the other ones. And then Mina Mellons came out with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. And she got in the ring and hit one of the girls with, I say hit, I can't use that word. She tapped one of the girls the lightest bat shot ever, and then threw the bat to Megan, who caught it, and then she drop kicked Megan. Why the fuck why would you take a bat and throw it to your guy? It's this giant lurch like fucking Amazon. It's going to kick the shit out of him. Oh, here, take this baseball wrapped barbed wire from the bank addicted drug robber. Take this fucking thing and I'll drop kick you. Or maybe I could have just taken the bat that I already had and just beat the fuck out of you. You giant bitch. So then Mercedes picked up the bat and missed a swing and dropped the bat, and they went back to wrestling spots and trading fake forearms. There's a fucking bat. There was a fucking bat there, is what I'm saying to you. And then let's drop down, hip toss. Marina Schaefer comes out through the crowd with the spooky lighting, and she pulls Statlander out of the cage. Statlander's bleeding. And they start fighting on the floor. It's a 2-ring double cage, but they've got to have the fight on the floor. And that's when they turn the bed of nails over from where it had been secreted against the barricade, and she knocks Statlander onto a bed of nails, which they got earlier that day at the Bed of Nails store. What the fuck? Why did any of the crew say, hey, we got a bed of nails over here? Does anybody know oh shit, call the police. What the fuck? Then Tony Storm comes out dressed as Michael Myers in Halloween and brings in a giant pearl necklace and the champagne ice bucket. And she uses the pearl necklace as brass knuckles on Schaefer. And Schaefer just says, fuck it, and doesn't sell it and takes over on her. And they're 40 minutes into the show and we go to the break. And they come back. And Jamie Hayter, that's actually the first time I've made note on seeing her. She may have recovered from having her face smashed in for this giant witless Amazon. She powerbombed Sky Blue onto a table that didn't break because, of course, Blue only weighs 100 pounds. 75 pounds of that are in her gluteus. And then Jamie Hayter gives her an elbow drop on a table. It no breaky. Table no breaky. And then everybody started doing all the moves that they knew. And you can't really, there's no rhyme or reason when everybody's looking through the cage from that distance that you have to look through that fucking cage. Talk about people in the arena and or on television where you can't understand half of what's going on, that there's 12 of these nitwits just doing everything to everybody. You can't even keep track of who's in charge here. They're just popping on if somebody's going to get fucking injured, carried out on a stretcher, or break something. And that's what Harley Cameron with the brass knuckles KO'd Mercedes Moon.
Well, did you see how she had the brass knuckles?
Oh, inside a puppet.
Yeah, Mercedes went for the puppet
of Mercedes. Yes.
She tricked her with the puppet.
It was a puppet trick. Then when Mercedes yanks the puppet off, then she hits her with the brass knuckles. But I believe that was Mercedes's cue. That was her reason to get the fuck out of there and stay out while Julia Hart and Thekla then just crawl through the openings in the cage trim or truss or frame or whatever the fuck. And they just figured out they could do that. So they crawl through. crawl through and knock the referee out on the floor and get the key to the door and open the door, and they throw several of the baby faces out on the floor. So then they have about 6 girls fighting out on the floor. And Statlander and Mercedes, that they fell through the belt table. That took Moan out of the fucking thing. And that's when Storm dumped the broken glass out and DDT'd Marina Shafir on it. But Shafir turned around and broke a framed mirror over Toni Storm's head. So there's got glass flying everywhere. And then Mina Mellons put a figure 4 leg lock on Megan Brain around the barbed wire baseball bat. This, by the way, all of this is taking a lot fucking longer than the way I'm describing it. Because this thing is going for nearly an hour. Then they held, finally, Toni Storm. Several of the girls, I can't remember who, doesn't matter, held Toni Storm while Megan Brain whipped Mina Mellons with one of the title belts, and Toni was so worried about, we established now, I guess they're lovers, they love each other, that the announcers were using the words, well, they're in love, a person you love. Are they appealing to the basement crowd again with the lesbianism, or what's happening here?
Yeah, I'm not exactly certain, but wasn't that also the gimmick that they had with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa? Because Mariah May was like the understudy of Toni Storm, but Mina and her had this relationship from Stardom. And it created like a schism in the timeless Toni Storm Mariah May relationship.
A schism?
A schism.
You're talking about like a small crack or
That's
chunk in the
I don't know where you're leading us, but yes, that is indeed the definition.
I can't use the other word on YouTube.
No.
It can only be a crack in the armor. But nevertheless, so Toni Storm gives up to save Mina Mellons from being whooped on by Megan Brain with the title belt. And again, I'm sure they all had just a fun time doing it. But this is the kind of thing, like I said, that turns people off to all wrestling. And it's just unnecessary, especially to go almost an hour. I don't know which was worse, the fakeness of it and the contrivedness of it, or the stupid use of the childish weapons, or the multiple women bleeding everywhere, or the idea that these are supposed to be professionals in a professional business, but they're actually legitimately hurting each other, taking bumps and a bunch of sharp shit for no reason, except their marks for garbage wrestling. And the younger people have to blame Tony for rewarding goofs like Moxley at his fucking viewpoint with teaching this to the newer generation.
In terms of positives, do you see anything with Sky Blue? The fact that she was in there the longest, she bled the most, maybe the most I've ever seen a woman bleed in America. And she obviously
Now, wait a minute. What about those trips to Thailand? What are you talking about in America?
Well, I think Chikasa Nagayo may have bled more. I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, good Lord. What is that?
Against Dump Matsumoto.
You know, most of the guys in the business that I've known, when they got juiced to where people said, geez, I've never seen somebody bleed so much, they didn't mean to do it. Go ahead.
But that was my only point. The fact that obviously she has very limited coaching because it's AEW, and she kind of is a singer-songwriter doing whatever she wants.
Do I see anything I see something in Blue Sky, because she's Sky Blue. Now, I don't know which is which. She's an attractive girl. She's obviously in shape. She has a good look, and she's obviously dedicated. So, yes, that right there, but I don't see anything from this because what talent did it take to go out there and wander around in the middle of that mess with 11 other girls for nearly an hour? You can fucking just lay and sell in the corner when it's not your turn. It's not like you're having a 50-minute wrestling match. And no, I don't attribute anything to her talent for being able to bleed profusely when she cuts herself. No, if again, whether she meant to do it that bad or not, or whatever the case, or to get that much sauce, as they used to say, in the middle of this ridiculousness that is like one of these goddamn garbage championship wrestling shows with a giant budget, as I said on Twitter, because the billionaire boy child has a cognitive defect. And here's what we get. If it meant anything for business, that'd be wonderful. But since it didn't, everybody's talking about her, but it didn't make her another goddamn penny because she's on a guarantee and they're on a guarantee and everybody's on a guarantee. They're just trying to kill each other to appeal to a weird, smaller section of the fandom these days. They ought to have a women locked in a basement match on pay-per-view, or at least make these people pay something to see it.
Instead of escape the cage, escape the AEW fan.
Yes, if they get out of the basement, they win.
Out of the basement or out of the house?
Yes. Well, if you get out of the basement, pretty much you're going to be able to get out of the house.
There's no guarantee there. I don't think it's a victory until you get out of the house.
All right. Okay. From the basement to the front yard. When they plant foot in the front yard, they've won the thing. But the problem is you can only have one AEW fan buy a ticket. And you got to have at least 4 to 6 girls in the basement or it wouldn't be exciting. Then you take the 6 girls and you drop them off at a bus station in the middle of Iowa, maybe Montana, in the middle of the night, and they have no identification on them. And then a panel van pulls up. And then 6 months later, you call the guy that bought the ticket. You say, okay, are you ready to shoot this pay-per-view now?
Well, again,
spitballing.
It's just workshopping some ideas here. But if you are one of the AEW sicko fans, obviously mind your own business, keep to yourself, leave these women alone. But that was the women's blood and guts match.
Blood and gush. Boy, I'll tell you, But Brian, we said it and blood and gush. We said it, and I think it's never been more true that they're marks for themselves, and they wanted to get the cool pictures, right? They wanted to get the cool pictures themselves. They could share on social media. They could send each other's phones, and they can, they can think about this moment back when they were covered in blood and rolling around in broken glass. I think that they ought to contact our friends, our brand new friends over at Aura Frames, don't you? Because that way they could set one of these Aura frames. We're going to tell you what these are, folks. They could set these Aura frames on their nightstand or on their piece of furniture there, the humidor or the whatever the fuck. And they could look at themselves gushing blood on national television just over and over again from all kinds of angles. What do you think, Brian?
Again, maybe not the most appropriate of photos to display, but I have to say, this is Aura Frames, that is. This is one of those things that when it arrives in the house, you become a superstar to your wife. Suzanne fell in love with this quickly. We have a couple here in the house, one upstairs, one downstairs. And if the wrestlers are anything like us humans, I think they would definitely love Aura Frames.
Well, here's the thing. And by the way, it's Aura, A-U-R-A, folks. See, I have no accent. I'm very neutral, so I can pronounce Aura Frames. But that's what you look up, auraframes.com, because here's the thing. When it came to my house, to Castle Cornette here, because, of course, we're in the family now, so they sent me one, and Stacy flipped out, went out of her mind, because turns out that is exactly what her mom had gotten from her nephew. Stacy's mother from Stacy's nephew. You see where I'm going there? And as a result, Stacy's mom liked it so much, Stacy was going to get her nephew one, and instead she took this one and sent it to him and then got another one. And now they've all got Aura frames and they're all connected to each other, and they're just sending pictures back and forth like crazy. And that's exactly what you can do. You can preload pictures and then send it to somebody, or you can send it to somebody and then upload or download. Which term is it, Brian? Pictures. You can connect it to the Wi-Fi.
You will be uploading them to the through the Wi-Fi. It'll get to
you
your
can
frame.
Send from your phone. You can send pictures. I'll tell you what, I went down to the payphone on the corner and figured out a way to send some pictures to a guy down the street, and he got pissed about it. It was pictures of my ass. But nevertheless, and it comes
from the payphone.
Yes, it took me a while to figure it out, but I did. And also, each one of these frames comes. Now, this is very important.
Of course,
I'm about to talk to you people about very important information. There is a gift box included with each one of these Aura frames. Every frame comes packaged in a premium gift box with no price tag. And that means it's free. So you'll get one of these for free every time that you get one with no price tag, I guess. Right, Brian?
No, that isn't how that works. That isn't how we should put that out there. Nothing is free in life, kids. Of course.
Well, no, so when it doesn't have a price tag on it, how else are you going to know how much if you send somebody a present, a gift for the holidays, and it doesn't have a price tag on it, how are they supposed to know how much you like them?
Well, again, it's the thought that counts, and also a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Fuck what you're thinking. I want some goddamn valuable merchandise.
If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have lots of expressions we can use.
No, don't put these things in the kitchen, because right then and there, they'll get greasy when you're frying.
You can put it in the kitchen. Let's not scare people and alarm them. You can put this in the kitchen.
Well, you don't want to fuck it up. You're always frying the fritters and the fucking various things.
Oh, Jim, you heard that? Well, that means we need to tell all the good people out there that they can display photos of their family, their friends, the good times, everything they want to see.
And the bad times.
A cool feature.
You can have a slideshow of funerals if you want to, just to make sure you remember the departed. But right now, for a limited time, folks, here's some business for you. Visit Aura Frames, AURA, auraframes.com, and get $45 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames. They were named #1 by Wirecutter. And so if they can stand having their wires cut and still operate right there, you know you're getting a sturdy product. Use the promo code JCE at checkout to get that $45 off. auraframes.com, promo code JCE, $45 off. It's a Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal, and it is their best of the year. So order now before it's over with. And mention us at checkout, just so, as a matter of fact, Brian, you and I should send some carefully posed photographs of ourselves to load into all these things. So that way the listeners, when they order one, they'll just have our pictures on there automatically.
That's the kind of nightmare you don't have to worry about. You'll get a brand new, ready to use, nothing preloaded Aura frame ready for you. Load it with your favorite photos. Your family will love it. So will you. One more time, Jim.
And videos. You can upload videos. Up to 30 seconds long. That would be, 80% of the listeners' sex tapes could fit there.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, for appropriate, wonderful photos and videos,
there's a speaker. A speaker can play audio so that you can have the pictures talking to you.
We're going to have a
movie studio.
We're going to have a whole lot more to say about this wonderful product, but you can check it out today. Jim, what's that That promo code.
JCE. Well, you know, Brian, there's some people that don't necessarily have an aura to them, and they had to get them on the show. But did you hear now? Uncle Dave is apparently a stooged. They taped the segment last week where they were in the back parking lot and a bunch of Don Fallis's heels jump or have jumped already. Dino Douche and Jungle Jack off. And it went on because they kept trying to do comedy spots to show that Dino wasn't selling anything, but then they'd have to beat him back down. And then the whole thing was a setup so that Don and the Cucamonga kids can walk out of the trailer and Don can show them what happens if they're not a part of the Don Fallis family. And then suddenly, I guess the goddamn people that got beat up are just laying there because then they have the lingering shot of Maddie and Nikki's faces while they're like, what should we do? Certainly this is setting up, apparently, for them to switch babyface in some fashion. Is that going to work now?
See, both options are bad. It would seem obvious they're setting up them becoming babyfaces, because how else would the Young Bucks do it than a multi-month, drawn-out, dramatic, why are these adults behaving like this or making these expressions kind of angle? On the other hand, if they actually swerve everyone and turn heel and join the Callis family, that sucks too.
Then there's 16 of them in there. What?
There's 16 titles in there. I mean, what the fuck? They don't care.
All righty. Well, let's go to the next match because it's of great importance. Of course, we're coming up on a big pay-per-view where the world champion will defend his title against Samoa Joe. So we're going to have the world champion against Samoa Joe's henchman, Powerhouse Hobbs, in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Everything on the show is a gimmick, but instead of just having, they can just have a match and we can sell the pay-per-view. It's Falls Count Anywhere. And again, when you look at these two and you see it visually in a sane world, Hobbs would be the star and Page would be the guy, local guy that was booked to put him over. But instead, so by the first break, they were up in the stands, the trash cans, the table, up into the bleachers. It's the same shit that everybody does, and they don't have room to do a lot. And it is what it is. And finally, they were fighting on the top of there's a breezeway to go out to the concourse or whatever, and then the seats are on 10. They're fighting on the ledge above that, right? And then they've got a special effects spot planned, but did you hear Shivani blow the fucking thing anyway?
He was driving me crazy all night. What did he say specifically here?
He blew it because Hobbs is on the edge and Page is leaned back, but he's about 10 feet away and he's pulling his boot off. And Shivani already says, Page gets a running start. He hadn't started yet. And then when he gets the boot and he takes a step, Shivani repeats it. So it's obviously the line, oh, the way we're going to finish this is Page going to get a running start and hit him with the boot. And so he called it before he ran. Then he called it again. Then Page hits Hobbs, but Page is trying to go down those steps and it's dark up there and he's trying to figure out how to not to really knock this guy off and kill him. So the running start turned it out to be a little stutter step and boom, he hits him with the boot. And Hobbs then turns and looks over his shoulder because these guys aren't stunt men. This is fucking stupid. And stunt men don't do it live in one take where it's supposed to look real in front of the fucking people going to the movie. But Hobbs looks over and he falls off and covers up. And right before he hits the table that he's going to fall on, the special effects sparklers blow off. And then he lands on the table, and then a case comes down on top of him, and it's the electrical table, and he's been electrocuted. We've actually had an electrocution. But if you go back and, because I said, wait a minute. If you go back and you frame by frame it, right before he hits the table, they blew the thing off that was buried back where it wouldn't like blow up underneath him and set him on fire. They saved that for the next match. But nevertheless, and then Page goes down and covers him, and the referee counts 1, 2, 3 after he's been electrocuted. The fuck? Comments before we go to the afterbirth.
Who knows if the good boots would have helped with the electrocution. It seems like an interesting choice of a kind of match to have on a show with two gigantic gimmick matches that both went over 45 minutes. Like, this was the buffer. This is one of those little things that's probably always been there, but this was the night it drove me crazy. Adam Page's necklace. Like, it's just so big and obvious. Why doesn't the heel just take him by the fucking necklace? Like, it's so gigantic on him when you're watching this. Other than that, I didn't notice the pyro going off early. Again, you went frame by frame. I didn't notice it when I watched it. I went back and watched it a second time.
It's like a half a second, but it was a rib because it was like it came from underneath the deal, not whatever. So then we're not done yet, folks. After he covers him 1, 2, 3, then here comes Shapoopy, and he gets in a fight with Page. And then here comes Samoa Joe, and he gets in a fight with Page. And then they throw him in the ring, and they've got him cornered, and the cage is being lowered. How? By who? Samoa Joe and Shapoopy and Hobbs. Well, Hobbs has been electrocuted. So he's goddamn not. Who's doing this on his behalf? And they're the cage is moving like a fucking 90-year-old man in a soup line. And they're trying, oh my God, he's going to be trapped. And then outruns Kingston and Hook, and they roll in and chase the heels off, and then the cage lowers, and now he's trapped in the cage, but with his friends. So he narrowly, by like 45 seconds, avoided disaster because who was lowering the cage?
Ole Anderson apparently got the controls to help the Four Horsemen. Of course, that was Capital Combat. I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. Why is the cage being lowered here? That was never explained. The announcers really didn't seem overly worried about, like, who's doing that or why is it happening. Just that it was happening.
Yes. Oh, the cage is coming down. They'd better get out of the way. Well, what does this happen intermittently? Is it like something we should be on the lookout for?
Because we didn't even know about at least I didn't realize it was going to be a promo segment next. So I'm thinking, okay, they're lowering it for War Games, even though these guys are in the ring. But that wasn't even it. The cage went back up.
Yeah. When they were done with it. So anyway, at that point, Paige gets on the microphone and says, if you wanted me in a cage, all you had to do was ask. So, because apparently he makes his own matches. So at Full Gear, it's a cage match. 10 days away, they've just made a cage match for their world title match, one guy against one guy in one ring. When on free television, we're seeing, as I mentioned earlier, 20 people in 2 rings and 2 cages and 2 different fucking matches, and all of them are goddamn bleeding like they've been run through a razor blade factory. So why do I want to pay $50 to see this thing here, Brian?
And why did Joe act worried? How does that make sense? Samoa Joe, the one thing he's going to be afraid of is a steel cage match with Adam Page? We just saw that they can go up and down willy-nilly.
Yes.
Yeah, this seemed like a bit mud. They're trying to manufacture like a feud while the feud is happening. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's done well. But yeah,
Well, but at least
puzzling
the
segment. And I hope Powerhouse Hobbs is alive.
well, we'll get an update on him from the Duke Energy soon. So then,
And you brought up the commentators earlier, Shivani all night. Whatever you want to say about Excalibur, who's awful, or Danielson, who just yells even when everyone else isn't yelling, and it seems like he's just trying to come up with things to say, like a John Smoltz for wrestling. But Shivani at this point is just doing commentary of what the other commentators are saying. That's a good call. I don't need the commentator to tell me that the other commentator is making a good call. That's a good point. You're like, what? Why do we need that? What is the point of that? He doesn't add anything to the commentary. He just says
you've certainly got a point there, Dave.
He says things to reaffirm what everyone else says. It's awful. But that's my commentary note for the pay-per-view.
Well, that actually brings me to Tony Schiavone in the ring. Introducing in kind of an awkward way. This whole thing was awkward. Here comes Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And Steamboat came out, and he's gray-haired because he's in his 70s these days. He's not in the physical shape he was once in, but it's nice to see Ricky at least still around because he didn't have the bad habits. But there were supposed to be, Brian, I guess we should bring this up. There were supposed to be 2 guests in Greensboro, North Carolina at the Coliseum for this night of AEW, episode of AEW, whatever. Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. And Flair apparently was there earlier in the night, came out in front of the people to cut a little promo with Tony, which I guess I haven't seen it, but people have referred to a clip being seen on the internet. And then he left. He was never on the TV. They even refer to him in this interview that they're about to do. But to the TV audience, except for him being referred to, they would have never known that he was fucking there. And I saw one report that said he was in a lot of pain from a torn rotator cuff or some kind of shoulder injury from doing what? How did he hurt him? But if he hurt himself that bad, then how could he not just come 30 minutes later and stay 30 minutes later and be on television? What the hell is going on here?
I was throwing kamikazes across the bar. Woo!
He was all right till the Egyptian showed up.
The Egyptian! Tony Khan is friends with the Egyptian. I have to leave. Woo!
But yeah, he came and he saw and he left. So
apparently he was in a sling, like you said he was in a lot of pain, so he mustered up all the energy he had to do the promo with Tony off air. And for whatever reason, made sure he wasn't there for the on-air portion.
Well, maybe he got an idea of what the on-air portion was going to look like.
It wouldn't be surprising to hear Ric Flair was driving around the arena on the phone with the office saying, I'll go in. You better make a deal. I'll be on TV.
No, he'd never do something like that in 1998. But nevertheless, so Tony's interview with Steamboat is awkward. Tony, it didn't pitch him the greatest questions, and Ricky didn't seem like anybody had given him anything to really talk about. I wonder if they went over a thing where Flair would do a lot of talking and all of a sudden Flair ain't there. But Steamboat put Flair over for helping him at the start. He was about to do that. He'd mentioned Flair's name after this awkward back and forth with Tony. And FTR's music played, and they interrupt and come to the ring. And this is where it got confusing, because as Dax and Cash and Stokely get in the ring, Steamboat points out Dax is like, oh, I know this gentleman. I know him. I worked with him a few years ago. Like he's never heard of them since. Like he doesn't know about the team or what they've been doing. But then later on in this same promo, they're going to show still frame on a screen of FTR was the partners when Steamboat had his last match in the Carolinas there 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And there's a picture of them with their arms. He knows them. He teamed with them in his last fucking match. And Stokely did a promo where the material was not great. And Ricky reacted awkwardly. And that's where they showed the picture. And I said, why did he only know Dax? And then Dax told the fans that Ricky helped trade him 13 years ago in NXT, but didn't teach him anything. None of this was making any sense. If he didn't teach him anything in 13 years ago, why did they team up with him for his last match? So Dax said that Steamboat had given him the advice to save his money. And then he said if Steamboat and Flair had taken that advice, they wouldn't have to be there tonight. And that's when the TV audience went, are we going to see Flair? Because elsewise he hadn't been mentioned except when Steamboat said Flair helped him years ago in his career.
Well, that was the thing. It seemed like they were building to Flair or someone coming out, and it didn't happen. But even if it had happened, you start thinking about it. Is Flair going to come in there and save Ricky Steamboat and beat up FTR? None of it made any sense.
So then Dax insulted Steamboat. They got nose to nose, and Dax grabbed Steamboat's face, and Steamboat shoved him, and then nothing happened. They just stood there and kind of looked disgruntled with each other. And then Dax told Steamboat to get out of the ring, and Ricky started talking calmly. Hey, at one time I would have done something about the discretion is the better part of valor. I'm going to be 73, so I'm going to be the smarter man. And they're trying to get sympathy on him, but he's just meandering. They didn't. This was like it was all done on the fly and everybody was lost. And it didn't put Ricky in the light that it should have. They just left him out there fucking floating around, and people who've never seen him go, what the fuck, this old guy, what?
Did you ever see that interview when Larry Merchant was interviewing? He was interviewing Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Mayweather Jr. is giving Larry Merchant shit for some of the comments he's made. Like, you don't know shit about boxing. You don't know shit. Larry Merchant goes, I wish I was 50 years younger. I'd knock you on your ass.
Well, we didn't get that.
That's what this reminded me of.
We didn't get that from Ricky. We got, well, I'll be the smarter man and leave. After a while, it was awkward. And then he goes to walk off and they grabbed him. And of course, they don't want to hurt Ricky Steamboat. But so I think it was Cash was just, one or the other was just throwing punches at his head that were not remotely connecting. And then they go for a pile driver, but here comes Bro Dildo. And now I'll tell you something. I know that nobody wanted to hurt Ricky Steamboat or make any mistakes, but when Bandito and Cash started swinging at each other, Brian, describe it for me. They won't believe me. They'll believe you.
It was embarrassing. I couldn't figure out who was trying to protect who. It was like not punches and not even a Jey Uso open-handed thing. It was kind of like the wrists were kind of limp as they were like, Bandito looked especially awful.
Yes. They were just waving their arms at each other. And then Dax fed Steamboat for some chops and the heels bailed out. And I wrote awkward, laid out badly, not produced, rotten material. What the fuck?
Did Flair find out this is what they want to do? And he was like, my shoulder hurts. I'll be at the bar.
I'm kind of thinking that might have been it.
Because what was he going to do? Stand there and take it from FTR and Stokely?
Well, I don't know, but they probably would have had Flair do most of the talking if it was him and Steamboat in the ring or whatever. Maybe that's why Ricky had nothing to say. I don't know what they were thinking, but maybe they weren't thinking. But, again, and they're in Greensboro, but they didn't have 5,000 people. I saw the number, it was 4,800 or whatever the fuck.
It looked good. It looked pretty good. You know what?
It looked good, but that's what I'm saying, is they at least had some kind of turnout, and they just, their legends just look like shit.
Did you see Jericho recently made some comments? I guess it may have been on his podcast. I didn't even know he still does a podcast, but he made them somewhere about how TNA's crowd recently looks so good. Like they're the number 2 promotion in the country. And how, Dynamites may not look as impressive as they used to.
I did not see that, but it's interesting that he said that. Well, he's feathering his next nest. But anyhow, so are you ready, Brian, for the main event of the evening?
In my eyes, we already saw it, but let's go to the men's blood and guts match.
Well, again, and this, say what you want about the girls match, but at least they put all their top girls in it. This was like, the parade of mid-card champions. They started out with Darby and Wheeler, and they're in a cage match, so naturally they started on the floor. And after a couple minutes, they got in the cage, and Darby had his skateboard with thumbtacks on it. And old Wheeler starts bleeding already. But this time, I guess they were running late because it didn't take them 5 minutes. This time they shaved some of the 5 minutes off. And Pockets moped in and took his time with no enthusiasm, doing his gimmick where he wanders in and he then crushes his sunglasses and stabs Wheeler in the face with them.
Hey, can I ask you a question before you go forward?
Please do. Please do.
Conceptually, booking-wise, there are inherent problems with the baby faces having the advantage. How do you do that and not have it turn into 2 baby faces just kicking the shit out of a heel for minutes at a time?
Well, like they do here later on when they hurt one of the baby faces so bad that he can't come out, and that they announce that he's definitely not going to be medically cleared to compete in the thing. And then he comes out 10 minutes later and kicks everybody's ass, not showing any goddamn signs of weather. I see that. And I guess we should have mentioned that in the girls, the heels had the advantage. So this time the baby faces have the man advantage where they get the extra guy to come in first, which again, that's why the heels always won the coin flip. Cause it hurts the match, and it takes away comebacks and excitement. But the reason why that it wasn't a problem when the heels always won the coin flip is because you're only supposed to have one of these like every 3 or 4 years. Then it wouldn't have been as big a deal. But in 2 per night, they got to switch it around a little bit. So, but that's another thing. At one when Briscoe's music played, I don't want to get ahead of myself too much, but the baby faces had the advantage of the man, but the baby faces were already beating up the 2 heels to begin with before that they found out Briscoe wasn't coming out. So they couldn't even, you see where I'm going with this. But the point is, the first 4 guys are Darby Allin, Wheeler Useless, Danny Garcia, and Pockets. Nobody in the ring weighed 185 pounds. Dipshit Pockets is dressed like he normally does, so it looks like a mechanic wandered in. The rest of them look like children. And then they're having a children's cage match. And then, as I said, when the Briscoe music plays, there's no Briscoe. So in the middle of the cage match, they go to roving reporter Renee Moxley-Good in the back with video where Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy Strong find Mark Briscoe down and selling from what we don't know. Who did it? Who did it? Oh. And Roddy says, I'll go. So Roddy's taking this turn. So Roderick Strong runs out to the ring. While in the ring, everybody's standing and watching the goddamn screen. They don't want to do anything to distract the people from knowing what the fuck. So everything in the ring comes to a halt. Then Roddy makes a comeback. And then he turns around and leaves the cage and gets the chair and comes back in. Now they've got the rules where that until everybody's in the ring, they don't lock the door. Except they make a big deal out of stealing the key afterward. So anyway, here comes Claudio. And again, I wrote, there's no stars. And Roddy, by this point, is bleeding slightly. He got what they used to term in the locker room when someone would get juice that was highly underwhelming. He got a pap smear. And then Kyle O'Reilly comes out. And by this point, you can hear the people are sitting there. They're waiting for the blood. They're waiting for the furniture, or they're waiting for somebody to get hurt. And in between, they don't really give a shit because they've already seen this shit. And these aren't even the fucking main event guys.
I was surprised the lack of reaction Kyle O'Reilly got coming out. Not that they didn't react to him again later on in the match, but he comes off 2 weeks of the Moxley stuff, which you could argue is being done to make him at least a little bigger than he is now. And he's actually done really well in it, but they didn't really react to him coming in.
That's because it's been 2 or 3 weeks of the Moxley stuff as opposed to 2 or 3 years of the way that they've treated him like a fucking idiot. So it takes a while for people to get the memo. And then when he does shit right in front of them, they react to it. But they're still not to the point where Kyle O'Reilly is going to come out, oh my God, it's Kyle. Because most people are used to, it's fucking Kyle. Because of the way they've presented him. And speaking of presentation, Dick the Boozer still has to do his entrance where he wanders in from the parking lot with the spooky lighting. And again, everything in the ring, there's nothing happening. They're all waiting for him. And did you see him trip trying to get over the rail? And the fans actually laughed at him. They're like, well, look at this stumble bum. And he gets in the ring, and his contribution is stabbing everybody in the head with a fork. And then he goes out and gets the barbed wire bat and the ice bucket with broken glass from the girls' match that nobody bothered to remove from ringside. And the girls already did it. He's bringing the scraps from the girls' match in. And as Moxley stabbed O'Reilly with the broken mirror, Renee Moxley-Good was given a voiceover update that Mark Briscoe was all fucked up and wasn't going to be in the match.
Yeah, while her husband's doing that, she's not only giving a voice update, they have her image on the screen on the bottom corner.
Well, just to make sure you know this is real sports. So then Moxley dumped the broken glass all over the place and pile drove Darby Allin in the glass. And they had another break, and then they came back from that, and everybody bunched up in the middle of the ring all of a sudden, and then so Darby could climb out to the top of the cage underneath and just let go, and they could catch him. And then everybody falls down. They were all looking up at him. If they'd have just backed up, there would have been no problem. And then here came Pac. No stars. And now they were all in the ring, though. And they got the tables in the ring, leaned up in the corners, and they got broken glass, and they got thumbtacks. And then here comes Mark Briscoe, who was fine. What was hurt on him? Did you see anything hurt?
No.
He came in with a chair and a toolbox and a set of bolt cutters and cut the lock off with the bolt cutters and threw the toolbox in and made a comeback. And then the baby faces had a logging chain and a wrench. And Briscoe got on the floor and beat up Useless and Garcia. And he put Garcia on the table and was going to climb the cage, but Garcia rolled off. So now Briscoe and Useless were on the top of the cage. And at this point, all that mattered was these two wandering around on top of the cage, everybody else just laying down there selling. And Briscoe hauls a chair up to the top with a fucking rope, but O'Reilly hooked it on and it got stuck, but then nothing was happening. But then they fought with the chairs and then they went to the break and they came back from the break and nothing was happening in the ring and they were still on top. And then Mark gave Wheeler a J driller on the top of the cage and started climbing down, and everybody in the ring was like they were in quicksand. And there was some more fighting on. And then here came Gabe Kidd, who I thought was Josh Alexander. And Gabe Kidd leveled Darby Allin and kidnapped him to the back of the arena. But now in the ring, Pockets Garcia's got him in a sleeper. So to show that Garcia's sleeper ain't shit, Pockets puts his hands in his pockets. But then Dick the Boozer comes up with a staple gun and staples Pockets' hands in his pockets. And Brian, guess what happened right then?
What happened?
That was 10:30. And my DVR froze because this week was a 2.5-hour program and they still ran over. And I didn't think to record the show after the goddamn extra 30 minutes. But I thought it was fitting that my DVR froze when Dipshit had got his own hands stapled in his own pockets. But apparently afterwards they set Darby on fire by throwing him through 2 flaming tables and had to put him out with a fire extinguisher. And then after all of that, Moxley tapped out to Kyle O'Reilly's choke.
With some ridiculous facial expressions from Moxley, which I think in his head looked like, oh, I really don't know what to do. I have to tap, but looked ridiculous.
Do we know if Darby lost any skin in this immolation that he went through? Because they said he was on fire for just a second or two.
I have not heard. What are your final thoughts about the men's blood and guts match?
After the women had done it and done it better, and this, the band of merry mid-carders, and it made even less sense. The people just sat there. They're like, what the fuck? There was 2 hours on this television show, and for those people in the arena, they didn't get the commercials to break it up, of just watching these idiots meander around, making up different goofy, jackass-style ways to semi-hurt each other. And it's just meaningless. And they still don't get it. They can't get over his personalities. They can't get personal issues and animosity over because nobody believes it, because not only the booking, but most of the performances are so preposterous and silly and wink, wink. And it's just a car crash. And the people honestly don't care whether the good driver or the bad driver wins as long as they run into each other. So that's what they've got. And what are you going to do after this? And again, in the same program, you've electrocuted one motherfucker, set another motherfucker on fire. The people with goddamn neck braces and slings are chasing each other around the ring. Everybody's got a belt. Nobody knows who the top guys are supposed to be and who the bottom ones are because Tony doesn't. And at the root of the thing, Tony lets these guys and girls do whatever they want because he's going to pay them no matter what, whether they're in the ring or in an iron lung. And Tony's a mark for this shit too. Because of, as I mentioned, whatever the cognitive issues are that he has. This is the kind of thing he just loves. So it will continue to happen. They just got to find new people with more skin and bones to break and burn.
Hey, Jim, real quick before we move on, I have the star ratings here from the Wrestling
Oh,
Observer
good
newsletter.
Lord. I'm sure you do.
Dave Meltzer's star ratings for this big wrestling extravaganza known as Blood and Guts. The women's match, Sky Blue and Tekla and Julia Hart and Megan Bain and Marina Shafir defeated Jamie Hayter and Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander and Harley Cameron and Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. 46 minutes, 4 seconds, 4.5 stars.
Boy, oh boy.
Adam Page defeated Powerhouse Hobbs in a no DQ Falls Count Anywhere match, 14 minutes, 9 seconds, 4.5 stars. And finally, Jim.
So now, wait a minute. Now it's just regardless of what you thought about either match. For the if you like that kind of thing, it's kind of thing those people like. The fucking 45-minute long 12 girl gang bang blood orgy was a lot better than the boring ass fucking fake champion against Hobbs for 15 minutes with half of it not even on television.
Yeah, that was not a 4.5 star match. I don't know where Dave. I mean, he loves Adam
Well,
Page.
you get an extra star if you get electrocuted.
And Jim, finally, the men's Blood and Guts match, Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, and Mark Briscoe defeated Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, and Pac. 54 minutes, 6 seconds, 5-star match.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. It did.
Maybe the greatest episode of wrestling television of all time.
No, he didn't say that.
No, I'm saying that based on the star ratings here.
Even if you don't care about all the sloppiness and the stupidity and the laziness that went on in that main event to go an hour and just the boringness of it. If for the kind of people who like that kind of thing, I won't even deny the girls' match was better than the guys. That's faint praise from me, but it was better and more exciting. And they fucked up about equally because there's a bunch of guys and girls on either side that can't work. And the people were tired out of seeing that horse shit by the time the guys got in the ring.
I have a little bit here from Dave. We'll end with this. The Blood and Guts show was, as far as an in-ring crazy violent show, was one of the best shows of its type in television history. It's not my taste.
What other show of its type has there ever been in television history?
It's up there with Bonanza and Mr. Peepers. It's not my taste. I wish War Games were like the Dusty Rhodes War Games with super heat, no weapons, and people not escaping the cage. I wish wrestlers didn't take the level of risks they do. The blood is the blood. There are going to be people who love it and others who hate it. I think too much is a negative, and it's turned off TNA fans over the years, just as it did many promotions historically when the blood got out of control.
He says all these things and he gives them all 5 stars. That
said, this show was called Blood and Guts.
Oh, Lord.
You were warned ahead of time.
You were warned. Yeah, it's your own fault if you watched this shit. We told you it was going to suck donkey balls, but you wouldn't listen.
There were endless
know-it-alls.
There were endless weapon shots and the usual barbed wire, broken glass, staplers, chairs, tables, and such.
The usual.
If you watch Blood and Guts and then complain about too much blood, the issue is that you were told what it would be and you had the choice to skip it. It was a 3-match television with that.
Brian, do you think anybody would have even been mad about all the blood if the other shit wasn't so stupid, if the shit looked good, if the shit didn't look phony, if the individuals involved were over, if the angles made sense, if they all didn't look like they were cooperating with each other to be stupid, any of those things. But it's just the blood. Yeah, we warned you about the blood, not the fucking childish stupidity.
Well, it's a weird argument that I don't know if Dave's ever had for anyone in wrestling history before. If you really break down what he's saying here, it was the craziest show in his eyes, maybe in television history, but he doesn't like it. He prefers something more sensible, as we do, actually. However, if you have any kind of problem with this, you're the problem. Not AEW, not these wrestlers, not the people who came up with these spots. You're the problem. You had the choice to turn the channel. Why is Dave making their defense for them? Right? I mean, that's the kind of thing like Howard Stern would say, or Vince McMahon would say, people, I think a lot of people, they have the choice. They can pick which channel they watch. Why is Dave making that argument for blood and guts after saying he prefers something else?
Because that way he can justify giving it 5 stars. Because elsewise he'll hurt their feelings and they won't be friends with him anymore.
Well, there's the star ratings for blood and guts.
He continues to just carry his balls around up in his watch pocket and won't speak the truth because the last semblance of a social circle or a readership that he has is the kids that he's taught that these kids are state-of-the-art wrestlers. And everybody that's known him for a long time thinks he's off his fucking nut.
Yeah. It's because he doesn't hear Tony's defense. He helps him craft it. That's what it is.
That may be the best booking done, is between these two try to figure out a way to put a positive face on some of these fucking stories. But you know what I was ready for after this thing was over with, Brian, don't you? After I saw these 2-hour-long extravaganza cage matches, I was ready for a good night's sleep. And luckily, I was able to get one because when I lay my weary bones down, frustrated over having to watch children play, well, then I'm laying down on a HELIX mattress. And your children can play on the HELIX mattress too. If they want to play wrestler, these things are big and soft. Just let the kids just body slam and suplex each other on the shit. Just watch out for your bed frame. That might cave in, but the HELIX mattresses they'll stand up to punishment. And folks, I'll tell you right now, there's no better time than right here. The holidays are coming up. Think about, do you want your family sleeping in sewage for Christmas? Do you want your family sleeping in, other people's DNA and bodily fluids? That's what's happening. Because every time that your family lays down on one of the mattresses in your home, you know who's been on there. Not only grandma, not only Aunt Lola and Uncle Bernard, but also their pet Rochester. Remember Rochester, bro? The cute little, what was he, a Spitz or was he a fuzzy little poodle? But Rochester was on the mattress too, and Lord knows what he did. And do you know that the average mattress, Brian, has over 17 pounds of dust mites in it every year? Have you seen that statistic?
I recently learned that statistic.
Well, it's terrible. So get rid of all of the DNA and the dust mites and get you a brand new HELIX mattress for the whole family for Christmas. That's what you need to do. And right now, at helixsleep.com/JCE, you can get 27% off. I don't care whether they want to or not. We're making them give you 27%. That's what we're saying. And you can go there and you can get the mattress for sleeping hot, or the mattress for sleeping cold, or the mattress for the kids sleeping, or they have the special mistress model where if you get a regular family size double or bigger, then you get a little small twin bed for your mistress also.
That is not one of their deals. It is it's an idea though that maybe they should revisit in the future.
It's a pairing. It's a combo deal.
It's not a deal. Again, it's not a pairing or a combo. It's a mistake. Go back to your wife and get a good night's sleep with Helix Sleep.
What, you're saying he can't stay over every once in a while? I mean, we don't want the mistress to feel left out. But folks, you're gonna sleep better. It's going to improve your everyday life. You won't be as grumpy and cranky because you're going to be on a mattress that gives you the support where you need things held up and lets the other things that need to dangle. And that's the Helix Sleep mattress. Just go there, take the quiz, pick out the mattress that you like. And with that little code JCE, you're going to get 27% off. And make sure that you enter our show name after the checkout so they know we sent you. That's how they're keeping tabs on these things, from what I'm told. So don't worry about being a tattletale. You can name names. HelixSleep.com/JCE.
That's right. We love them. We have them here in the house. We're going to get more soon. We love them. You will too. Helix.
Why do you say, you always say that we have them here in the house? Now, I mentioned that you can put them out in the backyard in case of fire so the kids can jump out the second story window. You just kind of put a row on the back of the house down right next to the eaves there. But you always say you have them in your house like you've taken me up on that, and you scoffed at me before.
No,
I've got them.
I'm letting the listeners know that we legitimately have them here. We use Helix Sleep. We love Helix Sleep, and you will.
Well, yes, I know you do, but you can just say we have them here rather than we have them here in the house. Because until you put them out in the yard, you should take my advice. What happens if the house catches on fire and you're on the third or fourth floor?
No, you've had great advice so far. Buy a mattress for your mistress and put your mattress in the backyard. That's a great advice so far.
No, I didn't mean put your mattress. I meant put other mattresses out in the backyard. Just ring the whole area. And that way, no matter which window you jump out of, and that works whether you've got a mistress or there's a fire. You're going to be jumping out of a lot of windows.
Let the mistress jump out the window. You stay and get a good night's sleep.
Wait a minute. What's her husband going to do when he comes in and finds you there and she's out in the backyard?
Also, you think she's cheating too. You don't just think she's some Jezebel dating a married man.
Well, she's a mistress, ain't she?
Yeah.
Well, you can't trust them.
So you could trust Helix Sleep. Let's get out of this on a positive note. You could trust Helix Sleep for a good night's sleep. One more time, Jim, that wonderful promo code.
HelixSleep.com/JCE for the best mattress you'll ever sleep on, or potentially, if you want to get thrown out the window by the mistress's husband, you'll land on it. HelixSleep.com/JCE.
All right. Well, that actually ended up being somehow a safe landing, and this is still your show.